Hello and welcome to France as Lens leave it late to see off Toulouse and Lyon win at the Parc des Princes to keep the title race alive. PSG's lead is back to just 1 point. OL are third. Rennes are also in the thick of the Champions League hunt, surging past Marseille, whose no-show at Lorient sent Mehdi Benatia into a rage. We'll discuss all of that and take a close look at Strasbourg, who are gearing up for 2 semi-finals and stand on the brink of history. Well, thank you everybody for joining us again this morning on the French Football Show. I'm pleased to say the Dream Team is reunited after a rare no-show last week from Andy Scott. But Andy is back.
Come on.
He's back with us, which is great. He's up on the Monday morning despite having worked late into the night at other Parc des Princes. How are you going, Andy?
Yeah, 10 past 11 on a Monday morning. I've got up bright and early for you. So, I'm good, thank you. Yeah, it was a late finish last night, but it's always nice to be here on a Monday late morning to discuss it all with you. So, pleasure to be back.
It's not a bad job, is it? You know, having to go to watch the European champions and commentate. I mean, it's okay. It's okay. Having a lie-in, you know. Anyway, Tom Williams. Tom's had a busy weekend. I'm sure I saw you interviewing Big Gabriel, the former Lille player for Canal Plus last week. Was that an interview done in French, Tom?
It was. Yeah, both of us doing it in our respective second languages, or probably Gabriel's third language, in fairness to him, given that I think his English is probably slightly better than his French. But fair play, his French is good enough, you know, to do an interview. So good to chat with him pre-game. We won't talk too much about the result, I guess, Matt, just to spare you further heartbreak.
Yeah, the interview didn't bring Big Gabby a whole lot of luck, but let's start at the Parc des Princes, where PSG were beaten for a 5th time this season. Luis Enrique rang the changes for the visit of Lyon on Sunday, and Paulo Fonseca's team took advantage, running out 2-1 victors. Andy, you were there. Is this a case of PSG suffering a bit of a Champions League hangover? Did they maybe take their eye off the ball?
Well, I think the interesting thing about PSG's defeats recently is that they've tended to come before Champions League games. You look at the 2 previous defeats they'd had in 2026. Rennes was just before they played Monaco in the first leg of the playoff, and then Monaco at home was just before they played Chelsea in the first leg of the last 16. But obviously the issue now is that PSG are coming up to... Luis Enrique emphasised this after the game last night, you know, that they're going to have a game every 3 days now until the end of the season. And if they get to the Champions League final, they'll have a couple of weeks break before that. But between now and the end of the Ligue 1 season, they're playing every 3 days because they've got a rearranged game against Nantes coming up.
They're not going to get sympathy for that, Andy, but, you know, having asked to postpone all these matches.
Well, exactly. But of course, and I'm not here to give them sympathy, but I think it's an explanation as to why he made so many changes last night. 6 changes to his starting 11, so he changes more than half his outfield players, and so many of the really biggest names were on the bench, including Zaire Emery, who'd started the last 40 games for PSG and was on the bench last night, but ends up coming on before half-time because Vitinha goes off hurt. So Luis Enrique has to deal with that. That's a bit of an issue, but I think more broadly speaking, PSG, a bit of a come-down after the qualification against Liverpool during the week, and just a bit of a flat atmosphere, you know? I mean, like, I think there's a sense, as I said to you before we started recording, that you go to the Parc des Princes now a lot of the time, and I actually don't think it's a bad thing, really, but you get the sense that the PSG fans are like so appreciative of what the team has achieved over the last year that they're giving the team a pass. They're not going to get on the team's back because they're losing a Ligue 1 game at home to Lyon. Nobody seemed that annoyed. You know, there was no jeering at half-time when the team were 2-0 down. There's also no away fans, and it just creates this slightly odd atmosphere. But in amongst all that, I would say that Lyon were absolutely superb in that game last night. I thought Paulo Fonseca, as we kind of come to expect from him, it was a bit of a tactical masterclass. He played this kind of back 4, back 5. He plugged the gaps in the area of the pitch on the right of the PSG attack, where PSG have so many players moving, you know, so much danger in that area. And he also used Afonso Moreira to drag Zabarni out of position and exploit that position where Achraf Hakimi leaves big spaces. And Endrick, who he dropped last weekend, got a reaction out of him coming off the bench against Lorient. Well, he brings him back into the team. and Endrick turns up and delivers on the kind of big stage. So it was, hats off to Paulo Fonseca first and foremost. Huge result for them. And it's a good result, really, I think, in general for Ligue. Luis Enrique also said this last night. He said, you guys wanted a title race. Well, you've still got one because PSG are still giving Lens a glimmer of hope. Had they won last night,
yeah. So nicely.
I know, but they're going to beat Nantes on Wednesday, surely. So had they won last night, you'd be looking at a 7-point gap. Now there's still just a glimmer of hope, and that's something from a neutral perspective, I suppose. Even though PSG are still massive favourites to win the league.
And yeah, just to pick up on what Andy said about Afonso Moreira, absolutely brilliant and one of the real breakthrough players in Ligue 1 this season. You go back to last summer, he joins from Sporting. They only paid €2 million for him, which is absolute peanuts in the modern game. He'd played 2 senior league matches for Sporting over the course of the 2 previous seasons. I don't think he arrived to any kind of fanfare at all. Only really got a look in with Lyon after Malik Fofana's injury before Christmas, but has been superb. Only turned 21 last month, still such a young player, but fantastic last night. Sets up the opener for Endrick, albeit with a completely mishit shot, but then takes his goal brilliantly. Endrick sends him through from the halfway line, basically outpaces Achraf Hakimi, nods the ball clear of the covering defenders, and tucks a shot past Matvei Safonov. And you look at the players who Lyon didn't have available last night. Pavel Sruch still out, Corentin Tolisso not there, Fofana's not around, Ernest Mouama, Remy Ambert. They're really down to the bare bones in attacking areas, and yet, again, credit to Paulo Fonseca, found this system with Kalis Mera as a kind of withdrawn centre-forward, if you like, flanked by Endrick and Moreira, that worked absolutely brilliantly. And, if Lyon are to go on and achieve Champions League qualification, I think Moreira will be a really big part of that.
Yeah, Lyon up to third after those back-to-back wins. So PSG hosting Nantes on Wednesday. Just a quick word about Nantes. They were held to a 1-1 draw at home by Brest. Mostafa Mohamed put them ahead early, but they conceded in the 96th minute. Brendan Chardonnay equalising for Brest. And the match was played out with quite a lot of tension because there was a sending off, very controversial sending off of Tabibou, the Nantes winger, who was adjudged to have denied Brest a goal-scoring opportunity when it did look like there wasn't really a goal-scoring opportunity because the ball was basically going, I think, into the arms of Anthony Lopez anyway. So Vahid Halilhodzic went absolutely berserk. He was sent off as well. And he's always quite entertaining, Coach Vahid. He explained after the game that the referee had told him to calm down or he'll get an even longer ban. And Vahid said, look, I couldn't care less. He can give me a 10-year ban if he wants. I'm leaving football now anyway. So I think Vahid, the 73-year-old who was brought in for one last hurrah at Nantes, is probably not going to be pitch side on Wednesday night. And actually, I think it's all over for Nantes because, it's not mathematically. They're 5 points behind Auxerre, but their last 5 games, I think, are all against top teams. And they've just played Metz, Auxerre, Brest. They've failed to win any of them. Lens played on Friday night. That was the first game of the match day, and it was a thrilling game actually at home against Toulouse. Lens, of course, looking to get back to winning ways. They went 2-0 down really early on. Christian Caceres had this 35-yard shot, sort of a very speculative shot. It did swerve a bit in the air, but Lens's goalkeeper Robin Risse, I think, tried to catch it, and it's hit the tips of his fingers and gone in. A horrible moment for him, who's had a great season up until the last few weeks, and he's having a few wobbles now. Seni Kumbasa, a teenage defender, then put Toulouse 2-0 up, but Toulouse had Yann Bouot sent off. I think it was in the 17th minute, which was obviously bad for them on the night, but it also means Yann Bouot, their top scorer, is suspended for the Coupe de France semi-final on Tuesday night. A repeat fixture, Lens at home against Toulouse in that semi-final. And to make it even worse for them, Lens came back. They had 42 shots in all. They had, I don't know how many crosses, but it was close to 70, I think. They were just putting so many crosses in. Mathieu Udo in particular, a lot of great crosses. Saoud Abdelhamid headed in the all-important first one on 61 minutes. Adrian Thomason made it 2-2 on 67. And then Ismailo Ganiu, the homegrown product, up from the back, heading in a winner from a corner on 91 minutes. And I'll ask you, Tom, to come in on this. I mean, it's obviously a thrilling game and really important, I would say, for Lens to get back to within a point of PSG, but also to get the win ahead of this big semi-final.
Yeah, completely. I watched this game and it was brilliant. I mean, one of the games of the season, and I think, the fear with Lens having lost 2 of their previous 3 games was that, they were just running out of steam in the title race. Obviously, there was that very costly and heavy defeat in the derby against Lille, and, the controversy around the rescheduling of the PSG game. And you felt like there was a danger of the momentum just kind of trickling out in their season, plus the Coupe de France semi-final looming on the horizon, this competition that Lens have never won. Were they going to be slightly distracted? And it was a fact, the guys who've been largely reliable this season, Robin Risset, albeit, his form has been a little bit wobbly of late, and Malang Sarr at fault for those 2 Toulouse goals, was this kind of disappointing run of form going to continue? But that, again, abetted by the red card, they took control of the game brilliantly, and all of a sudden, the title race is back on. It is only a point. Of course, we expect PSG to beat Nantes, but strange things happen in football. So at least it's created a little bit more suspense. And if Lens keep winning their games, then PSG will have to make sure that they're not dropping points. So yeah, a fantastic start to the weekend. Another great Friday night game, and a wonderful moment for Ganiu. One of these players who's been thrust into the spotlight. We've talked so many times about the injury problems that Lens have got at the back. Jonathan Gahadi being out for pretty much the whole season. This slightly peculiar Samson Baidu case, albeit he did make his comeback in that game on Friday. And Ganiu is one of the players who stepped up, born and bred at Lens. Scores an unforgettable stoppage time winner.
Yeah, and that's Lens almost certainly qualified for the Champions League as well now. Andy, before we talk Marseille, I want to talk a bit about Rennes with you. They got a 3-0 victory at Strasbourg. Now, Strasbourg, who we, of course, bigged up in the first part of the podcast, they did name a second team, basically, for this. So they've made the decision that they're not going to qualify for Europe through the league. They're going all out in the cup competitions, and that obviously played into Rennes' hands. Le Paul got the opener, Mbolo was set up by Le Paul for 2-0, and then Altamari for 3-0. Andy, it's 6 wins, 1 draw, 1 defeat for Rennes under Franck Hez. I guess we're not surprised that he's got them up and running. Such a good coach, and they're fourth, I believe. I'll double check that, but they're looking good, aren't they? They're fifth. They're fifth. Sorry, they're a point behind Lille.
Yeah, exactly. But of course, it's so tight. It's so tight that they're right in that mix. I mean, it's difficult for all these teams because you could go from direct Champions League qualification or out of the European places altogether, as it stands in the case of Monaco. So there's not much in it. But yeah, I mean, perhaps more pertinently to what you're about to talk about, since they sacked the previous coach, it's 7 wins and a draw in 9 because they also beat PSG with the interim coach Sébastien Tombouré before Franck Hez came in. Franck Hez is a great coach, and none of this makes Habib Beye look particularly great because he's having some difficulties where he is now. But yeah, Rennes looking good, coherent, and they've got a goal scorer. And all top teams need a goal scorer. Esteban Le Paul is doing that. 17 goals now in the league this season, and I think you mentioned this in our WhatsApp chat, Matt, that he's perhaps in any kind of normal country or any sort of, anywhere other than France, he might be in contention for a place in the France squad for the World Cup, but there's too much quality in front of him. But he is a real talent, Esteban Le Paul.
Probably, but Hugo Ekitike's injury maybe just opens the door just a little creak. He's got 17 goals anyway. He's having a brilliant season. Tom, we're going to talk Marseille. In many ways, this was a kind of, I think, a predictable scoreline because Lorient are so good at home against the big teams. They beat Marseille by 2-0. Katsaris and Bomba Dieng. After the game, Mehdi Benatia, the sporting director who had been keeping quiet ever since the sort of crisis with De Zerbi leaving and Pablo Longoria, etc., he couldn't keep quiet any longer. He came out and he went on a 10-minute rant after the game. I've picked a couple of sentences. He said, he started by saying, "I wasn't planning to speak until the end of the year. We've talked far too much over the last 6 months. But when I see the match we played, I have to come and face the press. It's a scandal, a scandal. You're playing a Lorient team with nothing left to play for, and you don't win a single duel. You don't make a single forward run. You show no initiative. You try nothing. You just watch them. And in the stadium, the crowd is cheering and laughing because they nutmeg you, they jink past you. Yeah, that's the truth." Is that the truth, Tom? Probably is, no?
I mean, it is, but also, when is he going to start looking at his own role in this? And, the role played by Pablo Longoria and, this decision to just be, constantly chopping and changing and bringing players in and bombing players out and giving players a run of a couple of games and then just banishing them, never to be seen again. I mean, the entire management of Olympique de Marseille has been pretty hard to understand over the last couple of years. And Benassia has a role in that. How are those players supposed to play with any confidence when they all know that they're permanently on the transfer market and that the first sign of any kind of disappointment, they're the ones who are going to be publicly called out by the club directors? It was a terrible result for OM. And for as good as Lorient are at home and have been for some time, this was a weakened Lorient. They're missing both of their starting fullbacks. Theo Lebris, who unfortunately is injured, Arsène Kouassi, who was suspended, Montassar Talbi, regular starting centre-back, he wasn't there. You might have thought that they might be slightly weaker, but they didn't look any weaker. Habib Bey looks like he's really struggling to find the right formula. I mean, when he first came in, one of the things he did was stick more central midfielders into the team. He was playing with 3 central midfielders to begin with, which felt like an attempt to try and give Marseille a bit more ballast and a bit more force in central areas. But the last few weeks, he's gone the completely opposite approach. It's all about cramming attacking players into the starting 11. So you've now got Igor Paixão starting as left wing back. You've got Greenwood and Gouiri and Aubameyang, in the forward line. You've got Hamad Junior Traore, another very attacking player, starting as a wing back. Then in central midfield, you've got possibly the slowest central midfield partnership in the last 30 years of Ligue 1 history, him, Abdelli and Pierre-Emile Højbjerg. And they looked very poor again. Bamba Dieng inevitably scores against his former club and involved in the first goal. And just to really sugar the pill even more, he now finds himself looking up at his former club Rennes because, as we've just heard, Francaise has been doing a fantastic job ever since he went in. 3 defeats in 4 now for Marseille. That's despite the latest warm weather training camp in Marbella, and they've been told that they're not allowed to leave the training ground for the next 4 weeks, to prepare for the run-in. Just, tension upon tension upon tension. And is it any surprise that when these players get ground down so much, they end up struggling on the pitch as much as they are?
Oh dear. I'm planning to take my 2 girls to the velodrome next week for Marseille-Nice. So it could be hostile. It could be interesting. It's a big game. They're still in it. Still in the fight for a place in the top 3 or at least the top 4. Lyon and Lille have got 54 points. Rennes 53, Marseille 52, Monaco 50. That's because Lille slipped up. They drew 0-0 at home against Nice. Monaco were 2-0 down at home against Auxerre, Danois and Sinayoko. They managed to get a draw. Fati and Balogun scoring a penalty. It's now 8 games in a row in which he has scored. The other matches that I haven't mentioned, Angers 1, Le Havre 1. Both teams looking safe. Metz 1, Paris FC 3. They are very much looking safe. And after the rant I had against the old coaches last week, Antoine Kombouaré has hit back at me again by overseeing another victory. Kombouaré is doing a great job. Paris FC winning 3-1 thanks to goals from Gori, Otavio, and a brilliant goal from Ilan Cabal. Andy, have I missed anything? Anything you need to add, want to add?
No, but I will say just quickly that obviously it's the Coupe de France semi-finals this week, right? So I'm off to Lens tomorrow for the Lens-Toulouse game, and I know that you're going to be on Strasbourg-Nice, and I'm looking forward to them. And, no offence to PSG, but it's good to have a lineup in the French Cup semi-finals that doesn't include Paris Saint-Germain, and it feels really open. And you've got the 2 favourites, I suppose you might say, both playing at home. And if they can get through to the final, that would be special. But at the same time, Toulouse looking to win it for the second time in 4 seasons, and Nice were finalists in 2022, looking to get back there and give themselves a lift after what's been a dreadful campaign. So those should be great games this midweek.
Absolutely. Thank you very much for your time, Andy. Thank you as well, Tom. It's been great to have you both, and I hope everybody enjoyed it. Please do take just a couple of seconds to rate, like and subscribe to us on the podcast platforms and on the French Football Show on YouTube. We will see you again next week. Take care, everybody. Ciao, ciao.